Let's go. And we're off. Welcome to episode 8 of The Paradigm Shift with your host, Tunji. And today I am joined by my two good friends from church, Posi
Hi.
and Fiyin.
Hey guys.
And they are the host of...
Matter of opinion? Matter of opinion, yeah.
Matter of Opinion. So
Yeah.
go check that out. I'll have that linked in the description. So, guys, tell me a little bit about yourselves. Tell the viewers a little bit about yourselves.
Well, like we said, we're 2 of 4 from Matter of Opinion, based in Dublin, Ireland. I'm 25, she's 24. We're sisters, Irish twins, as I like to say. Yeah, well, not Irish twins, because you know how they say Irish twins are like normally just very, very close in age. Well, yeah. What did you have anything you want to tell?
So I'm 24. So we're 2 of Matter of Opinion. So I'm currently working, but I think right now it's just like living and working. Like that's it really. I have nothing else about myself. But yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And what is Matter of Opinion?
Matter of Opinion is just basically a group of girls just coming together to share our opinions on certain things, topics that are relative to us and what we may have experienced or what we're going through, or just topics that we feel like girls our age would like to relate to. We started our podcast, we started up as a YouTube kind of channel, and that started about 2 years ago. And then because we're all like, I'm in like the science kind of field, so is she in terms of working and stuff, and then the other 2 girls are also one is a midwife and one is a PA, which is a physician associate. So we're all in very hectic schedules, so it kind of took a bit of a pause, and then now we kind of wanted to start that back up.
Like it just kind of literally started by, I think it was December 2020. We were having dinner in Mackenzie's, and we were just talking about like a very heated topic. I can't remember what it was, and they were like, "Oh, guys, we should like start a YouTube," and I think that's where it kind of stemmed from. But that's where we are right now.
Okay, so you've been doing that one. How many episodes is that? Please have it.
Currently, right now, we have 3 episodes. We are taking a different, because we're working with a team, another production team per se. We're taking like a different role. Not role, but like a different route to how we produce our stuff. So the videos that are being like brought out now are pre-recorded,
right?
And we're following like a season kind of basis.
Okay.
So we'll start like shooting, or we'll start videoing or recording next season in the next few weeks, but season 1 is still kind of going. So I think 3 is out now. It's only going to be like 5 episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other 2 episodes will be dropping. Did it come out every week?
It's meant to be coming out every week. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but
so
again,
who's not doing their job?
Look. Again, at the moment, I think with the team we're working with and stuff, things happen, and we should have another video drop out, not this week because it's the end of this week, next week.
Yeah.
And the last video will be the following week, and that'll be end of season 1 of
Okay.
this new route that we're taking.
Okay, that's cool. And when you do pre-record, so you said you're trying to take a different route with the new season then, because this first season's pre-recorded. The new season that's coming out, what things are you thinking of implementing or changing?
Thank you. Okay, so the difference between, so if you go on our channel, the difference in episodes, it was literally just, we didn't really think about the topics, so it was just like, we're just talking about this, whatever. So with the new guys and with the new season, like it was more thought out, it was more planned out. You know, we had segments in it. I think it just the way like everything looked, like aesthetic wise and like outfits and just everything was completely different. That was a different route. Our next season is going to be completely different as well, because you know, with each episode or season, like we try to improve. We try to improve ourselves, like even like listening to our like topics now, you kind of critique yourself. You're like, oh, we should have really, like we really should have thought about our topics more. But yeah, that's like the different route that we're taking in terms of just like being more serious and more like intentional, basically. Yeah.
Okay, so intentionality is the biggest change.
Is the biggest change.
That's good to know. And then, because there's 4 people, and everyone has a hectic schedule, like you said. How are you all going to get the time to come together once a week to record? That's gonna.
I think right now our biggest kind of and I think I could speak for all of us, but our biggest kind of issue per se is, again, intentionality. Like, I think if we really took, because ideally when we had the first conversation in the restaurant, and it was actually me that brought it up and said, oh guys, this is an amazing like concept and we should do this. And they were like, the girls were like, yeah, like it sounds good and everything, but I think, again, just the intentionality of it. And once there's intentionality, then there's like a real drive, and everybody is very much like, okay, let's. But again, like life happens, and our jobs as well are quite demanding, like our side hustles and things that we do. So I think right now it's just everybody's just still trying to find their own wavelength when it comes to it. But I still feel like we've hit a gold mine in our idea. We just need to know how to really implement that and like push that forward in the right way, in our own way, in our own voice. I think another thing is that we're still trying to find our own voice as to who's our audience. Like I know women are our audience, but which type of women are our audience? Which group of women are our audience? Because there's definitely different types of women out here, and then there's definitely ways we can talk to them. When we're talking about relationships, are we talking about circular relationships, or are we talking about Christian relationships? Are we talking about being out on the streets, or are we talking, you know what I mean? So we're still really trying to find our voice.
Okay.
Yeah. And still being genuine to us and our journeys. Because again, there's one thing to be like, oh, we talk about this because this is what we want to portray. But is that actually what we live by? So, yeah.
That's really interesting, because I had the same dilemma when I started my old podcast, Tunchi's Pod. And I did 106 episodes. And I still started a new podcast because I'm still trying to figure out what I was trying to do. And to be honest with you, with this one that I'm doing now, this one's very intentional, because the paradigm shift, the name says everything. Tunchi's Pod, it's too general. It's for everyone. And if there's something that's for everyone, that means it's for no one.
Yeah.
So with this podcast, I'm talking about how people can grow physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially. And I'm focusing on those 4 topics. And then I'll get people on each week that are in those industries. So last week I had like the biggest real estate voice in the country.
Wow.
On the last episode where we spoke for almost 2 hours talking about Irish real estate and investing and stuff like that, because he's in the industry 22 years. Yeah. Has his own company and stuff like that. So, getting his opinion and his voice on a lot of things, that's the value that I'm actually giving. But the old podcast, I wasn't really giving any value, So it was for everyone. It was just kind of just while you're doing something, just to have it in the background. But now this one, you don't want to have it in the background. You want to be listening on each episode. And that was the paradigm shift. That's why I decided to make the change. And I can see that you're going through the same thing that I went through, and I'd say everybody just sit down and discuss what it is you're trying to do with it.
Exactly.
And, make sure everybody's on board with it.
Page,
if everyone's on the same page, then it's easier.
Yeah.
But that was one of the reasons I chose to do a podcast on my own, because I can do one thing and I don't have anyone kind of disagreeing and stuff like that, because there's always an element of that in the side. So instead of me having a co-host that I have to rely on, and if they can't show up, then I can't record, because matter of opinion, let's just say you're not available, and one other person's not available, but one person's available. Would they be able to record by themselves? Would they still do it? That's where you need to ask yourself, if everybody wasn't available, would I still do the episode? And you need to ask yourself that question, and everybody should say yes. And if you can't say yes, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. True.
Yeah,
that's very true.
That's kind of one of the main things that I had for the podcasting, because I love this thing. And it's also a thing of, longevity. If you want to have actual lasting impact, you need to be doing it long enough to have that impact. Yeah. Right? So if you were doing it I did Two Inches Pod for 2 or 3 years or something like that. And that was every week. People were actually coming and listening to it. People from different countries were listening to it. I think the main listeners were from the UK, America, Mexico, weirdly enough, and India.
Okay.
Those are like the countries that are listening to the podcast, and I never really advertised it. So it's like you can really reach people from everywhere.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even a podcast that was intentional, but this one's going to be intentional. And then it's how long do you plan on doing it? If you know, I'm going to stick to this, matter of opinion would be absolutely massive. It could be on TV, but the thing about it is,
how serious
are you going to stick with it for 5 years, 6 years? What if you don't hit success till 10 years? Will you still be doing it? And that's really where you have to think about things,
true.
You know?
Like even when I think about like the influencers or the YouTube creators that I still watch today, they've been doing it for the long time, and it's only in the last probably 3 years that they've really hit like jackpot in terms of like their success or whatever is now showing off. But they've been doing it for a long time. And when I first like kind of really thought about it, even the name and everything, I was like, this is actually something, especially in Ireland at the time. It's funny, in Ireland at the time, it was like there's definitely room for this. There's definitely room. We just need to execute it properly. And it's thank God.
You know, it's really interesting. But I have a matter of opinion.
Okay.
Let's talk about growing up in a Nigerian household. Because we're all Nigerians. And everybody has had different experiences when it comes to this. And a lot of times, actually, this is one thing I heard from in church, because these guys are actually my friends from church. Solid Rock. Let's go. And one of the things that was said was church hurt or church trauma. That was.
Oh, I think I saw the same thing.
That was spoken about, you know. And one of those things that's spoken about, like, that's so interesting because they're all Africans that are talking about the same thing. So it's almost like, you know, these things actually come from an African, like, kind of mentality, household, whatever. But let's just say, in terms of, we'll go into African household upbringing and then how that has affected people in, let's just say, the dating market now, for example, right? Because as we see, the dating market right now is...
shambles. Shambolic.
Yes, it's shambolic. You know, but I think it just takes for people to actually talk about it. To maybe open some eyes. Maybe this will help at least one person, you know? So, how was you guys' upbringing?
Okay. I would say, in terms of our upbringing, one word I would give it is roller coaster. I think when you're African, it's never really stagnant like the average Caucasian person, where it's like mom and dad and like you go to school and all of that. With Africans, we like moved countries a lot. So we were in England. It's like we were in England, we moved to Ireland, then we moved from Ireland back to England. At one point we were in Amsterdam. Like I said, it's never really set in one place. I would say it's a typical kind of African, kind of traditional, or in terms of culture, the same thing. But in our family, it was just, like I said, like all over the place. Obviously, family history as well, and family drama plays a huge part, like you said, in your upbringing. Like, I don't know what we can say on here, but
I think you feel free if you feel comfortable.
yeah, like
whatever you want.
Yeah,
if you don't want to go into detail, don't go into detail.
For example, like my parents, like I didn't grow up with my dad. So he was always in Nigeria. So we had a stepdad. So we predominantly grew up with him, knowing him as dad and whatever. And my biological father is in Nigeria, so we didn't grow up with him. And with my stepdad, he was also Muslim. So we're Christians and he's Muslim. So there was that clash as well. Yeah. So, so like I said, it's roller coaster. So we literally grew up where it was like, okay, we go to church every Sunday, but because he's technically our dad, like we would kind of partake in the Muslim tradition. So like when Ramadan is coming, we too would kind of do Ramadan as well, and like it was never really forced upon us, but it was like we would do it as well. Just for him, like it was very for me it was fine. I was like, like I'm not a person that really like cares about stuff like that, so it was never a problem to me. But I don't know what else to say. That's not
like you've said it like really nicely. That was pretty much our upbringing was a roller coaster. And it's not until me being at this age and me like talking to other people and my friends and meeting people in this walk of life, and I explain things probably in more detail, and they're like, yeah, like, oh, I went through that, or I went through something similar. And I was just thinking that like when I was younger, I really thought like we were out here living some kind of crazy like upbringing, but realistically every home, every African home, there was definitely some kind of deep rooted something happening. And the funny thing is that I wouldn't know the friends I had back then went through something similar because nobody talked about it. Nothing. That whole thing where you keep things in your house, like it goes across not only Africans but even white people tend to do that as well. They're a bit more laxed to say things. But in terms of how that has impacted, if I can go on to that second point that you said, impacted relationships. Oh, I don't know. Like for me, it greatly impacted like relationships and viewing relationships, because it's like still I didn't learn how to receive love properly. It was always like situations where, okay, you give me love, so I have to give you something back kind of situation. So that's just my experience. I don't know whether Posi would say it, because we lived in the same household, but we would take different things. Exactly. 100%. But for me, predominantly, that I technically, from outside looking in, I did have mom and dad at home. But because of the dramas and things that were happening, and just because I love my parents, but just because of the way they would have wanted to or treat us or loved us it's technically not the correct way. Therefore, instilling in us a certain way of us viewing the world, viewing love, and then relationships. Okay. So, yeah.
So, question I'd have, right? Because my experience, I had the drama and stuff like that, but I was actually born in Ireland. So I've had a completely different experience. And then where I grew up, it was around, like I was like, I think I didn't become friends with a black person until I was about 6 or 7. Wow. So from 4, I used to live in Dublin and I moved down to Louth. And from then to there, I've only been friends with white people. Yeah. So I didn't know what the experience was like. And that was a completely different dynamic as well, because when we first moved in, we were the first black people in the whole area, because it was a tiny little town. And we used to get bullied a lot back in the day. People used to throw eggs at our house, smash our windows, all that stuff, because it's like they've never seen black people before.
Yeah, and something similar as well.
Yeah, and it's only until me and my brother and my sister actually started fighting people that we finally gained our respect from people out there. But the experience that we went through was definitely similar with like family dramas and all of that stuff. It was very similar, and because I also had 2 other brothers that I never met. I only met one of my older brothers a month ago, or 2 months ago, and because my mom left Nigeria when she was 19. Okay. And then she went around all of Europe, and then my dad went around all of Europe. So my mom had 2 kids that she had to leave in Nigeria because that was the only opportunity to leave. Yeah. So she's only meeting her son now for the first time after
no way.
How many years? 20 plus years.
Did she keep in contact?
Oh, we've always been in contact ever since, but we're never physically seeing each other, holding each other, So that was a strange thing, because I picked him up from the airport. it was really like surreal. I said, wow, so my big brother, I'm finally seeing him in the flesh, you know. So that was a very interesting experience. And then I have another brother that has 4 kids.
Wow.
And I haven't met him yet because he's still in Nigeria. I've never even been to Nigeria.
Older as well?
Yeah.
So you would have gone like predominantly thinking that you were the oldest?
No, I have an older sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have an older sister.
That's here?
Yeah, that's here as well.
Okay.
And then a younger brother and a younger sister.
Okay.
I'm sure you've met the two
Yeah,
of them.
yeah.
Because they've come to the church a few times. But the experience was completely different from a lot of other people that I've seen, because just 15 minutes drive away where Tosin grew up, it was all black people. So she has a completely different experience than me, from all that anti-gossip, all that crazy stuff. But I was sheltered from all of that because I was in the countryside. My family just kept to ourselves. We never, my dad never exposed us to any of that. And it was actually very strategic for him not to expose us to that, because he said, I know what Nigerians are like, what they're like. So we were kept away from it. But now it's only when I started moving, I left my town, because my town had everything. They had a play school, primary school, secondary school. You didn't need to leave.
Yeah.
So I was so sheltered in this little town of 2,000 people.
Wow.
Drawda's 15 minutes, Dundalk is 15 minutes the other way. Dublin's an hour drive. So I never needed to leave. And then when I went to college, I was exposed to everything. I said, whoa, the world is so big. That's only when I seen what everything was like.
Yeah.
And so that was really interesting. And one of the things that I realized is that a lot of people had, one common theme that I seen was that a lot of people's dads weren't in the home, right? And that was, I'm still even questioning it to this day, because it still doesn't really make sense. And I've had this conversation with my dad as well.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, why do you think that these dads that chose to leave, or maybe the wives kicked them out or something like that, but she wouldn't kick you out for no reason, type of thing. Maybe you were abusive, maybe you were doing something or whatever. But I said, why do they think that they can just leave their child's life and then come back all of a sudden and claim their success?
Oh, stop.
My brain, doesn't make any sense to me.
I saw that scenario right there. I've actually seen it with a lot of other, our neighbors, where, I would see, Auntie A has been doing it, working, doing the care job, doing everything. She's raised the kids up. And then all of a sudden, her husband has now come into Ireland, because obviously she has the 4 kids, whatever, and he's been able to come in. Yeah. And now you just see, I've seen that dynamic with other people as well. And sometimes I'll just be the cheek. It's just very...
It just doesn't make sense to me.
I think for me, when... when the fathers or whatever, the men in the relationship leave, for me, I see it as a lack of self-love. The fact that you have a family, you have a wife, beautiful wife that's taking care of your kids and all of that, and you just decide to up and leave, either because obviously if you've come from Nigeria and now you're experiencing your people, you see new women and stuff like that. For me, it's just a lack of self-love, and obviously past trauma that you yourself as a man you've not dealt with. So it's you'd rather run away from something good because you don't know how to receive something good, something that you have, you don't even know how to comprehend. So you'd rather just run away than take full responsibility. So it's if you've not been taught, how will you do it? How would you go about it, if you get what I mean? I can say for myself that just in my relationships, my past, current, whatever relationships, that sometimes I struggle to receive love, or when it's just too much for me, I'd rather just run away from it, because I've not received that type of love from my mother or my father, or in terms of my dad. I think I've only seen my dad twice throughout my whole life, and that's the time that I went back to Nigeria recently. So it's it's in terms of fatherly or father-daughter love, it's only recently now that I'm experiencing it. So it's I've never, and I'm even trying to adjust to that, because it's this man that I've never seen, I have to listen, I have to call him, I have to listen to what he's saying, I have to obey his rules and blah blah, even though he's I have to believe what he says, even though you've missed my whole entire life, and it's just but it's literally by the grace of God that because I was never welcome into it in the first place. So I was just oh, whatever. But I think God had put it in my heart that to honor my dad no matter what he did, you know, the fact that he wasn't there. Even my mom as well. Obviously my mom has been there my whole life, but it's like sometimes the things that she does, I have to still have it in the back of my mind that regardless of what she does, she's still my mom. Regardless, she's still my mom. I still have to respect her. No matter like how, you know, toxic or any situation is with her, I still have it in the back of my mind that this is my mother, regardless of what she does. So it's like I've, you know, dealing with a mother that in a way kind of doesn't really know how to show love herself, then dealing with an absent kind of father. So it's really impacted on my relationship, because that's why when I went like massively, absolutely like massively, like I can't even explain, but yeah, that's how I would see it.
That is so interesting, because you can see how that would affect your relationship.
Yeah.
Because she was raised to be a certain way. He was raised to be a certain way. And now, as a result of those two things multiplying, coming together, it created this. And this is the byproduct of that. All right. And I took a few things from my own dad that would be deemed as toxic, that I'm trying to wean out of myself. But you don't think it is. But, you know, that's kind of how you're raised, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of receiving love, I learned it because of my mom. My mom was also always very open, and she was always there. Like, I felt like I could tell her anything, and she'd actually listen to me and not, you know, go crazy and start saying, oh God, what did I do to deserve?
Yeah,
like,
oh my
you know, that kind
gosh,
of dramatic, she would sit there with a calm face and make me feel comfortable telling her things that made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I could feel like I could come to tell her anything. And as a result, that made me a really good listener, to where I can listen to other people's issues and I can kind of pinpoint, okay, so where are all these things coming from? And one of the things that I've realized in a lot of the dating and relationships that are happening today, the reason why a lot of people are struggling, in my opinion, is because of all the trauma that's been passed on to them, more so than what is wrong with them themselves. You know, we're byproducts of our environment. So if the environment is a certain way, okay, you're going to be a certain way. And a lot of women, I can see how they can say, relationship, no, because I've seen what happens when a stay-at-home mom and my dad works, but now he doesn't let her do anything. If she says she wants to buy this, he'll say, no, you're not buying this, or he can't do this. I'm just going to have my own money, so a man can't tell me that. I understand it, you know. I get where that is coming from. And, you know, a lot of the times, parents tend to actually, this is a hot take actually, I feel like a lot of African parents tell their daughters to kind of raise their daughters to be like men.
Oh yeah,
100%. You know, I think that's the way forward now. I feel like I'm still traditional in terms of everything that has happened to me. I still want the marriage, like I still want to be I still want to be a submissive wife and all of that. Yeah. Obviously, not too much. Don't take them. But yeah, it just, even myself now as a 24, almost 25-year-old in this world right now, we as women, like, we have to fend for ourselves. Like, obviously, 20, 30, 40 years ago, women needed men to provide, because obviously women didn't have the same rights as men. They couldn't get jobs and all of this. But now we can. Now, as young women, we can do we have like side businesses, lashes, nails, makeup, all of this thing. Like we're learning and we're adapting to the modern world in terms of like, you have to like go get your money, sis. Like you have to fend for yourself. And obviously, with the way men are moving mad these days, like we have to, because who's gonna look after us? Do you get what I mean?
Okay. So I think, just to point out there, I think Tunji was just saying that regarding how some mothers are bringing up their girls, is that they're not allowing the girls to step into their feminine energy at the appropriate times. Fair enough, we have to be independent. And you know, I only recently learned this, and I've only recently started subconsciously making a note in my head, even when I interact with certain men or people, is that I need to be able to, as independent and as I do this by myself, I can do this, I can be anywhere in the world, I'm good. As much as I actually have that, I need to be able to step into being a female who needs the help of a man sometimes. Sometimes it's actually okay if you ask for help, or sometimes it's actually okay to step into that like feminine energy. I think sometimes we step into the masculine energy of like that whole independence to the point where we've actually pushed the man out of his own masculine energy. So it's like we're almost saying subconsciously, we don't need you.
Yeah.
We don't need you. And sometimes that's why, because I've read some like feminist kind of books as well, of books talking about feminism and Christianity and stuff. There is a way to do it that you own yourself as a female, but you also allow your man or the man in the house to be that man, and it doesn't dim your light. It doesn't stop you from being. It doesn't stop you from being independent. And I think sometimes we get it twisted, because I think now the general consensus is that, yeah, get your money, sis, do what you have to do, you know, like, I'm all for it, but there's a way to go about it without losing yourself, and there's a way to go about it without pushing that man out of his role. Because when we do that, we actually let open for certain behaviors to come through.
Yeah.
Without even realizing. And that's how some people can be like, oh, I did this because you don't treat me like, and I never understood that statement, that I did this because you don't treat me like a man in the house. So I went out and found somebody. I've some statements like that, then there's a problem.
Yeah, it's real. And to be honest with you, a girl would be lucky if her man even was that honest. A lot of the times they won't tell you.
They won't tell you.
You won't know.
You've been the word, oh my gosh, you've been like, not neutering, there's a word for it, like you've almost taken that manhood from him in a way, subconsciously, and you didn't even know you did it, or you've been doing it.
Okay, so basically, right, okay. I like to look at the world as for what it is, right? Okay, you guys are saying, okay, don't take, obviously we have to, as women, we have to be in our femininity, we have to embrace all of that, right? I believe in that as well. For me, as long as you don't disrespect the man. But I feel like just the way in which the world is now, like the typical guy, right? So even, you know, when you're scrolling through TikTok or Twitter or whatever, so the narrative now is women are becoming more masculine and men are becoming more feminine in terms of men these days like to be chased, right? They like to be chased. And it's I've experienced it as well, like men of these days, they like to be chased, right? And the narrative has switched. So for me, how I look at it is that, honestly, I don't see like females being masculine in any sort of way being bad, especially if you're a woman and you've come from guys just degrading you and, you know, from bad experiences, because at the end of the day, we have to look out for ourselves. I'm so sorry to say, like, at the end of the day, we have to look out for ourselves. And sometimes even, you know, quote unquote, the good guys, sometimes they can kind of take that as an advantage and just be like, oh, she's so feminine. But then the narrative of men these days is like, oh, it's 2022, a woman should pay 50-50 in the, like, if we're going to a restaurant, you must pay 50-50. So it's like, how like men want women to be submissive, but then again, you want us to be paying 50-50 on the date. You want us to be doing this. Like, do you get what I mean?
I hear you.
So where's the balance?
I think that if a guy is trying to make you pay 50-50 on the date, he's not a man. That's my opinion.
Okay, so then where are the men?
They're there. They're out there.
Where are they?
The thing about it is they're out there. Maybe they're just not on social media, but they are there. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of really good men out there. It's just, the thing about it is there's a narrative, and girls have they have such a long list of things that they require, you know, and if he's not this, oh, red flag, or if he's not this, oh, red flag. But there'll be red flags in another guy that you won't ignore because he has a certain look. Oh, he has the look, oh, he's muscly, or, oh my gosh, he has a nice car. You know, you'll be fooled by the glitz and the glamour, not knowing that the guy that is actually good for you, he doesn't have it all right now.
That's so true.
You know, but he will.
That's so true.
You know, but people just won't give those guys a chance. And instead, the thing about it, all right, 90% of women go for the top 10% of guys. And that's the pool that they want. All women want these top 10 guys, 10%. Out of 100 men, they'll ignore 90. Oop, we all 90 of us want these 10.
And we're all fighting for those ones.
The same 10%. Everyone's fighting for the same 10%. why? But then you have to wonder, okay, why would the guy in this top 10% pick you? Are you a woman that can be deemed worthy for a top 10%er that you're looking for? You know, and then it's not to say that you should settle for less, but go for your own range.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of delusion.
Oh,
people think
so
they're a lot
much.
higher than they actually are.
There's so much.
Right? They just think, and the thing about it is, the trauma that women tend to go through with these guys that are deemed bad is because these guys have options. Women tend to be a lot more agreeable, right? And when I say agreeable, it's like, okay, I'll use this example. There's a guy that says, okay, yeah, I only sleep with, if she doesn't sleep with me on the first day, that's it. We're not done. He'll find, and just imagine he has everything. All women want this 10% guy. He doesn't need to work for you anymore because everyone wants him. So it's very easy. If you won't give me that, I just go to her over here and she'll do it on the first day. So I'll just go for that instead, you know? So at the end of the day, the game is the game.
Yeah.
Right? Not that I agree with those things, but the game is the game. If he doesn't need to work to be able to attain this because everyone wants me. Everybody wants me. I have the look, I have the status,
car.
I have the car, I have the money, I have the job, I have the ABC, and I have the look, you know, even though you don't know what's actually in my bank account, but I have the look to seem as if I do have it. Everybody wants me. All these other guys that don't look like they have it are ignored.
Very true.
And as a result of that, all the women that go for these guys end up getting hurt as a result. Because you'll end up being agreeable. Agreeableness is higher in women than it is in men. Right?
True.
It's like, oh, but I don't want to lose him. Okay, let me just give in to my thing. Let me lose my chastity in order to try and keep this guy.
Mercy.
You know? And as a result, you give him what he wants too early and he doesn't respect you.
Oh.
So that's how things tend to work. If you don't make a man work, people say, oh, you need to chase men. No, I'm sorry. If a man will chase the woman he wants.
Yeah.
You know, just because he doesn't chase you doesn't mean he's not
I've
chasing
heard that statement
anybody.
like at least 100 times and
Just-
over more this
Just
year.
because he's not chasing you doesn't mean he's not chasing anybody.
True.
He's chasing someone, right? Someone that he feels like he can't get, and maybe it's a 10%, top 10% woman.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm convinced that 90% of guys don't want the same 10% of women because guys know how to put themselves on a level much better than women do, right?
Wow.
Guys can say, okay, I'm a 4. To be honest with you, look in the mirror, I'm a 4. Yeah, but I can live with that. At least I have other ways that I can try and make myself more valuable. You carve himself into a paste. You know, men can create, women kind of are, right? Men have to create who they want to be. If I want, you know, like men value looks in women. Women don't value that much in men.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying? So a man could be a 4, but it's like, okay, let me go and grind in this job for the next 10 years to be able to give myself, you know, financial security so I can be able to provide for a woman. Okay, now I've just done, the market is now bigger for me because there's more women that will want this type of thing. But if a woman's born and she's like, okay, I'm a 4, there's not much she can actually do. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you're lucky or blessed enough to be visually gifted, as we might say, right?
Visually gifted.
You will attract more people.
Yeah.
And then if there's things that you can do in order to make yourself more attractive, then that's it. But what we tend to do is men say women tend to measure themselves up in the same way as they measure up men. And that's where there's like a misconception. Women think, okay, well, I'm super independent. I have my own job. I have this, A, B, C, and D, like, you know, all these things. But men don't find those things attractive. We don't care about your career. We don't care about your job. We don't care about what's in your bank. We don't care. You know, it's you. The value is you, right? So that's a lot of things that women don't actually tend to realize.
Yeah, that's,
you know,
yeah.
You are pre-made with the value. Men aren't pre-made with value. If a man chooses not to do anything, like he's going to end up being homeless. A woman, on the other hand, can somehow find a man. And he'll take care of her for the rest of her life.
Okay, because of that role.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Just the fact that she's female.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you'll be taken care of. But on the other hand, a man can't be taken care of. So he has to create his value.
Yeah.
Women are born with it.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of women will degrade their value by giving it to a man too easy or too quickly.
Word.
Right? You'll diminish that value and make yourself seem too cheap. And that's what happens to a lot of things. And now women are now owning that side of themselves to say, yeah, see, I can do whatever I want with my body. You're guilty. You're guilty because you're promiscuous, and you've just killed so much of the value that you had. You've killed it because you've made yourself so easy to these guys that you didn't make work for it. People that have to work for something, like I'm telling you now,
it lasts.
She made me work for a year plus, and then I ended up getting married. So you have to work.
Yeah.
You have to make somebody work for these things.
Yeah.
If it comes too easy, they won't respect you, and that's just because if you don't respect yourself, how am I going to respect you?
It's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I've personally realized and seen. And growing up, seeing all of that stuff, you see it everywhere. You see those girls that are really super promiscuous when you're young, and you're just wondering, like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But if they're beautiful, you look at them now, even though they're super promiscuous, then their past has been almost erased, right? Because they have that thing that people want. But it'll be a stupid guy that'll end up going for something like that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But then again, at the end of the day, if they chose to be born again, it could lead to a different way. But
that's true, yeah.
Most of the time, they're not. They're still kind of going that way, but they'll just say, okay, cool. Okay, I got this guy. I don't really expect much from him. He doesn't really expect much from me, but I know he'll take care of me. All right, cool. Let me just settle here, and we can build a family like this. But now, it doesn't work like that anymore.
No.
People are like, no, I'm a 2 in looks, but I don't care if I'm a 2. I want that top 10% guy. And I don't care if I eat what I want and I'm overweight and I don't go to the gym and I don't take care of myself and I don't go to therapy and I don't do all these things. You should take me as I am. And that's the delusion that I just don't understand in this dating market. There's so much delusion.
There is so much delusion. There was something I actually saw today, and it basically was saying I hope I phrase this properly. What you actually want, you have to become what you have to become what you want. So, and the guy was talking, again, TikTok and TikTok therapy, but the guy was talking about like relationships wise, and in the sense of like, you want a particular guy, but are you even like, are you putting out there into the universe, and like in that sense, that are you putting out what you actually want in a person? Are you that person who's has integrity? Are you that person who's kind? Are you that person who is like all those aspects, all those attributes that you actually want in a guy? Are you those things before you go and start hollering at somebody's son and be like, why are you not this and this and that? And that really resonated with me, because I was like, okay, am I actually this? Okay, am I this? No, I'm not. So in what we kind of want, or what we're attracting or wanting to get, we have to make sure, I feel like as women, that we are those things before, because in a way, like for us, like you can be like, okay, I am a 7 or an 8 or I'm a 9. I don't really like to be grading myself on a number list, but I'm a beautiful woman and whatever. I know I have this bit done or I have this done, but in terms of the character of what I want in a partner, do I actually exhibit those characteristics? So, and if I exhibit those characteristics, he also mentioned something as well. Don't go looking. There's another video I watched. Don't go looking for love. The best way you can ever get love is when it finds you. And that kind of ties into what you were saying about when it came to men having to work, or men who work for the women that they want. Hence, don't go looking for that love. And it then ties into the Bible. He who finds a good wife has found a good thing. He has to come looking. Not that you will make yourself, because I think we had this conversation as well. Not that you will make yourself visible for these people. We make ourselves visible. There's like so many layers to it, because it's like you have to make yourself visible. You have to, for a female from this side, you have to make yourself visible. You have to make sure that you also are giving off those attributes that you want in that man. But I think now for me, and I'm thinking about myself and my own relationships and stuff like that, I will no longer go looking for that love. best believe God said it. He said, he who finds. So when he's found me, now it's like I make myself visible, but I'm waiting to be found. I'm waiting for that person, and that's the whole working part, because to find something means you went out looking for it in the first place. So that means there was some level of work as well. So you've worked for it. So that's what we're aiming for.
That's very interesting. And another thing, me and Tosin had this conversation the other day when we said feminine energy as a whole is not a thing of going out and trying to get. Feminine energy is actually receiving.
Yeah.
That is feminine energy in a nutshell. It's to receive. It's to get, So if it's the thing of you're trying to go ahead, I want to find a man, I'm trying to find a man, you won't get it, because that's not feminine energy. Masculine energy is to go out and get, to go out and hunt, to go out and bring home, Feminine energy is to receive. So at the end of the day, that you need to kind of be in your feminine in order for the masculine to come in and to take care of that element.
Yeah.
And I just think that is super interesting. And to go on to another segment, right? In terms of all of this, raising the next generation, because I still talk about this now, right? And it's just such an important element. Now that we've all experienced what we've been through, what things now are we going to do that's different? So let's just say you're raising daughters, right? How? What are the things that you're instantly like that in your head? When I have a daughter, these things I need to take out of the system.
Before I would even consider having kids or anything like that, I feel like me and my husband, in Jesus' name, will have to go through therapy. Once we've obviously deal with our traumas ourselves, deal with our traumas that we've experienced as kids. So after we've done therapy, then we're going to do parenting classes. I feel like parenting classes are so important and no one really talks about it. And because I think when you grow up, how Africans believe having a child is, or, when they have children, is you give birth to the child, you have naming ceremony, everybody prays, you take the child to the pastor prays for the child. And so it's just like, a child has been brought into this world. But bringing a child into this world is a blessing in itself, right? You are responsible for this person in a way for the rest of your life, kind of. So with Africans or African culture, it's like they think because you give them food and you give them a roof over your head, it's enough. That's it. I'm your parents, whatever. But there's the physical aspects of being a parent, the emotional, the spiritual. Like there's so many things. There's so many things that goes into being a good and healthy parent. Just providing food and a household is literally not enough. Like, I'm so sorry, it's not enough. Because even as us Africans growing up in like a Nigerian household, we know ourselves that was never enough, because like either your parents will be shouting at you, so you feel like you can't open up to them. You're going through your own things. You feel like you can't talk to them. You're going through, you don't even know, even behind closed door, you're probably going through abuse that you can't even speak to your parents because they don't even know how to receive it, because that's how they grew up.
Exactly.
So it's like it's a mental cycle that it just keeps going on and on and on and on. And I'm kind of happy with the generation that we live in, that we're kind of more aware, and by the grace of God, we will be more better parents and more accepting and all of these things, like, because the way they thought was literally just one way. The mental health was mental health. You go to church, let's bind and cast the demon of depression out in Jesus' name. They don't believe in anything like that. Like, it's just absolutely crazy. And for me, when I have kids, oh my gosh, like, I'm going to put in so much work, because I know what it's like growing up and not having those things as a basic need as a child. Like, even sometimes as a parent, as an adult, the decisions that I make now will affect my kids regardless. Even though they're not born yet, they're not conceived yet, all of that, but it will affect the people I meet, traumas, experiences. That's what I'm going to now pour into my child. Do you get what I mean? So it's so important. Now I'm trying to be more intentional, like, okay, in my head, like, okay, I know that's what I'm doing now is going to affect like my kids, and even I'm starting to pray for my kids as well, like just preparing. God is preparing my kids for me, I'm preparing myself as well. Like, that's what I would do in terms of like having my kids, and just be more like, obviously I know you can't be really friends with your kids because you're still a parent, but like I want them to be, if they're going through something, to come and tell me and just be more open about it. Like, that's it for me anyways.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that you mentioned there. I actually didn't think about the parenting classes, but I think I would think about that more. Definitely with what you just said there, food and shelter was definitely never enough. I think the idea in the, like, with our parents back in the day was that I'm raising you the way my parents raised me. And then, you know, when I've heard that statement, either from my mom or dad, I'm raising you like my parents have raised me, I'm just thinking, but you're not even, like, no offense, but you're going through something, mother or father. You guys are going through things. So you should not, even for that statement to be made and them saying you're basically carrying replication onto me, does not make any sense. Again, I'm thankful for this generation because we are now exposed to different ways as which we're exposed to the mistakes that were made, and then we can actually implement actual things to make them better. I don't know if anybody knows this or if you've ever come across it, but have you ever heard of attachment styles? Yeah. Okay. Have you kind of figured out what your attachment style is?
Could you list them out again?
Okay, so there's 4 attachment styles, and these are they are developed from childhood and the way your parents interact with you. There's secure, there's anxious, there's avoidant, and there's like disorganized.
Right. I never heard of disorganized one.
Disorganized or preoccupied, I think.
Okay.
That's the other one. I did like a little test or whatever, and I read up on all of them actually. But I relate more to being the anxious attachment style. And I've found that some people that I've dated and stuff like that have like avoidance or whatever. And then secure is the one that you want to naturally be. Anyways, long story short is that these attachment styles are based on how your parents would have either physically manhandled you, emotionally handled you, or verbally handled you. And that would have created, psychologists say, and because I'm a science student as well, psychologists say and science says that would have also molded the way you attach to friendships. It's kind of self-explanatory. Attach to friendships, relationships, any form of relationship with another human being is the way you view those relationships and friendships or whatever, how you solved problems within those relationships and friendships, and how you exit from those relationships and friendships. For example, the attachment style is I no longer, because I'm Christian as well, and I also believe that now that I was able to identify it, I also believe that there was a way I no longer wanted to identify as being an anxious attachment style because of the way my mom would per se have answered my questions when I asked when I was a child, or my mom would have, or my dad would, or my mom or dad would have answered like my problems when I would bring them to them. Do you know that the thing is that even stems down to how your parents would respond to you when a baby is crying. That actually
it goes all the way back.
It goes all the way down to that's if anybody ever has the time to read up on it, I would highly suggest reading up on attachment styles and knowing and figuring out what your attachment style is. If you're secure, you're one of the blessed, because you not only are you a secure person, it's kind of self-explanatory, but not only are you a secure person, but the way you treat situations or how somebody deals with you don't see as, oh, they don't like me, or they don't love me, or they don't want to be with me. You see as that, oh, there's an issue with them, it has nothing to do with my value. Whereas an anxious attachment style, which I would have normally identified as, I'm not saying I'm fully over it, but I'm learning how to get out of that, I would have identified as like, oh, there's something wrong with me. I've done something wrong. Oh, I need to find ways to make up and make this person like love me or do this or whatever. I went on a bit of a segue, but just the fact that knowing things like that,
the attachment styles,
knowing that your child's cognitive behavior is so important. Knowing how to relate to your child even when they might not know how to verbally like explain themselves. Knowing how to do all those things, they don't just come overnight. They don't just come with the title of being a parent. They don't just come with like just waking up one day or having this naming ceremony and everybody has prayed on the child. They come with actual work. And now being 20-something-year-olds, it's the time to even know, okay, I know this about myself. I need to start asking myself questions as how I will deal with this situation once another human being who has come out of me or come through me and my partner comes into the picture. Because it's so important to like understand all these levels. It's like parenting, like Posi said, it's one of the most like important jobs on this earth to have.
I'd argue it is the most important. Because the next generation.
Actually,
do you know what I'm saying? The next generation, if there's no next generation, then we're finished. Humanity's done. There's no more people, you know. I did that attachment style thing, and I think you can actually be more than one.
They have sub names.
There's sub names. I was secure something else. I can't remember what the other one was. I have to look at it again. But and I know exactly where that would have came from, and it would have came from my mom. You know, because I could tell her anything. And I can still tell her anything. She always listens. If I'm in the wrong, she'll tell me I'm in the wrong, but she'll never cast out, you know, what I want, or not what I want, but what I'm trying to like explain, you know, and she'll kind of try and understand where my point of view is. And from that, I can now understand what other people's point of views. And I can ask, instead of just cutting somebody's argument down and saying, no, you're not this way, you know, or that's just not right. No, that's not, you know, just disregarding it. I've realized now if I'm raising kids, those are the types of things that I can see that a lot of other people haven't seen. And as a result of that, people feel comfortable to open up to me because they see that I'm not actually judging them. It's not coming from a place of judgment. It's like I'm genuinely just curious to see where that comes from. Where is this thinking coming from? And that's why I really like having conversations like this to see where did it all stem from? Because our developmental years is from 0 to 4.
Honestly,
that's where your brain really forms. And you know, if a parent is stressed in that time, the child will be stressed also. But the child doesn't know what stress is. Then it will just be growing up thinking, you know, anxious. The anxiety starts building. That's where it comes from. I
actually got, if this is like a little side note, but I got being anxious from my mom. My mom tends to be very stressed out very quickly. And like, it's one thing I picked up, but Posi didn't pick it up. And then we both grew up in the same household. You know what I mean? So I tend to like over like stress or worry or whatever, and it could be over anything or whatever, and you could be so like it's crazy how much like, yes, your parents, like, they really do impact everything. Like they're like sponges, like sorry, not they're like sponges, but children are like sponges.
100%.
And it's no small thing to just be a parent or have a child. And I just pray that with whoever I end up marrying or whoever I end up being with, we know how to really execute that by God's grace, because it's also God really has a huge part to play in.
Honestly.
As well, because we can talk about all this therapy, and because, you know, there's some other people in this world who are non-believers and they've raised their children perfectly, like grand, like great from paper, like in terms of outward looking in. But again, it's like there's still going to be things that might come up in that child's life in the future. But see, that's why it's like God really taking hold.
You need him as the ground, you know, the foundation. And, you know, I always speak about foundation because foundation is like the most important thing in a home, right? And now what we're seeing in this new climate is just a bunch of broken homes, right? And if that is the smallest foundation. A family unit is the basis of how society is even built, right? If there's no two-parent homes, society is just going to fall because nobody even knows who their kid is, who their freaking parent is. You know, when there's not a united home, and that's what happens when God is taken out of the picture. When you remove God from the picture, you think you can do your own version of God, the traditional Nigerian version of God. You know, churchianity is what I like to call it.
Churchianity,
you know, instead of actually just being, you know, having the actual fear of God. Because if you had the genuine fear of God, a lot of the things that a lot of people that we see in church, they wouldn't be doing it. You know, a lot of homes would not be broken because people just say, I can't deal with this anymore. Okay, if he hasn't laid hands on you, hasn't cheated on you, maybe he said opens his mouth the wrong way or something like that. Like, Oh, battery's dead. You know, those things there don't determine.
No, it's fine.
The camera got me.
Well, we'll still have the audio.
Yeah, and those things there are just so important for children. If there's not a two-parent household, kids are just growing up in two separate, like, it's like they're split 50-50, and it's like they have to be two different people. Have to be one person for my dad, one person for my mom, instead of having two parents to where I can be one person for them.
Yeah.
You know, two become one, and now it seems like, you know, the child is now split in. Like, I really don't agree with it, and I don't like how I see it in this climate right now. Right?
No.
There's too many single parent homes. And there's too many single parents to begin with, quote unquote baby mamas, right? But at the end of the day, you know, who can we blame for people's incompetence?
Because I would say that a lot of like broken homes and single parents, I'm sure that it started off with intentionality, if that's the word or whatever, and they started off good, because one thing you have to know about human beings is that we're very unpredictable. Okay, I might be away today, but in the next 5 years, 10 years, I can be completely different person, completely different person, regardless of who you are. That's why I feel like God is so important. Like, God is, honestly, I don't even know how to like put emphasis on this, right? If you don't have God in your life, like I just honestly don't know how you can cope, because even regardless if you feel like, oh, you're in a Christian family, whatever, God forbid, but something can always happen. Like I said, situations are so unpredictable. 15, 20 years, you don't know what will happen. That is why we need God, because if anything was to happen, we have God to fall back on. Like, you get what I mean? Like, you can't, like, yeah, everybody, I feel like marriage is a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But like in the Bible, it says, put your trust in God, not put your trust in your husband or your wife, because God knows the heart of man. It says, God says that the heart of a man is desperately wicked. He didn't say
unsaved man is desperately wicked, isn't it? Is it?
Let's just take it as the same thing.
It's the same thing. Sorry. I think it's this. I don't think it's an unsaved man, but yeah, like human beings are literally, we're very like I said,
we're not good by nature.
We're not good by nature. It says that, even God says that, like, our good works for God is like filthy rags. Even there's actually nothing we can do on this earth that is in a way very pleasing to God, because like we're still, it says in, like, we're born with sin. Like we can't take that away from us. So that's why I feel like God is so important in a marriage or any relationship, friendship, whatever, because it's like people change. You might not know, you might change in the next 10 years. Like, not to be like, oh, nasty. You just never know. In terms of life, you just never know. And that's why it says like you need to put your trust in God, because if everything else fails, if God forbid, your friendship fails, your marriage fails, your family fails, you, people around you, your colleagues, if your job, anything, if that fails, at least you have God to stand by. So yeah, that's how I wouldn't say people would want to be single mother. I think maybe our generation, but I say the generation before us, I don't think it's like you're being intentional, like, oh, I want to be baby mama. I think it just happens, you fall for someone that you thought was genuine and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I also think it's carelessness. I think we can't deny.
Yeah, there is some part that's
a big thing of carelessness.
Like,
there.
You saw all the massive red flags, but you still continue.
Exactly, and like something just as small as you have sex without protection. What do you think is going to happen?
What do you think is going to happen?
Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah,
and that is really annoying, because then when the baby comes. When the child comes, it's like, oh my gosh, like, I couldn't marry this guy. Okay, but if he's good enough to sleep with, and he's good enough to have a baby with, but he's not good enough to marry. That's another thing that I've seen. He's good enough for you to for the night, but he's not good enough to marry. It's so backwards. He's good enough to have a baby with. Yeah, well, he's not on my level, but he's good enough to have a baby with, though. But he's not good enough to marry. So he is on your level, and it's just so backwards, and it's delusion that is just, delusion's killing our people.
Is this life that we live in, bro? Like, it's
yeah,
absolutely crazy.
Like
I said, we need God.
So, like, what would be then the resolution in terms of, she goes, Jesus, like, in terms of, like, dating now? Like, what, like, actually, you're married, you're young. Like, what would you say now as advice? Because this stemmed off from a conversation that three of us were having anyways, like 2 weeks ago. But, like, what should we do then now? Like, what should we do now to then be in that space where we find people who are not... I don't even know what I'm asking. But
so, for that, I can't sit here with confidence and say, this is what you should do. Because, I'd be lying if I said that things just didn't work in my favor and I wasn't, blessed to be in this position right now, right? But with my wife, she said before... She said when she was about 17 or 18 or something like that, she had like a quote-unquote midlife crisis where she was always wondering, she cried and says, oh my gosh, what if a man never finds me? What if I never find a man? What if I'm just going to be on my own? What if I'm just going to be alone? A, B, C, and D.
At 17?
Yeah,
whoa.
17, 18, 19. But it was 19 when we met. And she didn't know at that time, but her auntie just said, listen, just leave it with God. You don't need to worry about these things. These things will come to you. If you look for it, it won't come to you. And I met her through Instagram. And if she never reached out to me to begin with, we would not be here at all. Because I would have never thought of reaching out to her because I didn't really know who she was. But she told me that she liked my podcast. She did an event for women that was called Mindful Sisters, to where it was like, it was a women empowerment event. She said, you're a really good talker. You should maybe do something like that for men. That's where it all started.
Okay.
That's literally where it started. And I saw her page and I said, okay, her page is very conservative. She's not showing all her body like most of these girls that I see on Instagram and stuff like that. Okay, let me see where this can go. One thing led to another. She first thing she asked me after like maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks, she said, what do you want from me? Straight to the point. And that was it. And for me, I was just like, okay, I like you. And then it just went from there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, a man that really wants you isn't going to like be saying, oh, okay, let's wait, A, B, C, and D. It's not like that. If a man really wants you, he wants you now. That means if a man is ready now, he wants to marry you within the next year. And you don't need to have a big extravagant wedding.
No.
It can be something small and you can save up to do the big one later. That's what we did.
Yeah.
We did a small one with just family, just to get right under God. And then we did the big one a couple of months later after we saved up for it. So that's how our strategy worked. So I think a lot of the times, and the thing about it is that she made me work. She said, I'm sorry, but I'm waiting until marriage. She hit me with that and I said, nobody has ever said that to me before.
Yeah.
And it just didn't make sense in my head because I've never had to work for a girl in my life. I never had to actually, work. So I'm just like, wait. No, she's just weird. And then one thing led to another and it's like, no, then I said, okay, fine, no problem. I'll wait, for you. But then things started going and God started working in me until I wasn't waiting for her anymore. I was waiting for God now.
Yeah,
you know, and that's where the paradigm shift for me happened.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't doing it for her anymore. I was doing it for God now. You know, and that's when things really changed. And then I realized there's no point in waiting. Why am I waiting 4 or 5 years to save up this, get a house, all these silly things ready? And I'm just like, I could just do it together. We can do it together.
Yeah.
It's such a waste. Why not just marry now unto God? Because I was thinking to myself, I said, if I died today, and we were just doing whatever we wanted, we're in a relationship, we plan on getting married. But if I died today, I'd go to hell. Yeah. Because I'm not living right.
Yeah.
Living right means to obey. That means not to obey one thing and all these other things, but you're not obeying in this area. You're obeying in all areas, surrounded. So it's like the longer I wait, the higher the chance of me to sin. So I said, okay, cool. I'm not going to wait anymore. This is what we're going to do. Planning A, B, C, and D. And then people were saying, but Tunji, are you ready? People love to say, are you ready? Like there's something, like the thing called, are you ready?
You're not ready for anything.
You're never ready.
You're never ready. Like, you're never ready. And like, ready is such a it's not even the right word to use, because it's like, in your situation, you were as ready as you thought you could be in that, like, and you made this decision based on you and like Tosin, and you guys came together and you were like, we think we can do this. Yeah. If you didn't, if you had a doubt that you couldn't do this, I'm sure you would have found a way to whatever.
Yeah.
But
100%. And when people say ready, I mean, like, and I say, are you ready? Are you sure?
Have you gone through this?
Yeah. And I'm just traveled? Like, listen, I'm ready to learn.
Yes, that's it.
And that's all that matters. I'm ready to learn, because God will continuously work in me, just like He worked in me from 19 up until now, 22.
Yeah.
You know, when we finally got married, He was working in me this whole time, and He's still working in me. And so there's a thing of that. I can't necessarily give advice to women to say this is what you should do, right? But what I can definitely say is, you know, if we go based off the worldly elements, right? Because that's where people see first. Before people see you as a Christian, they see you as from what they're visually seeing. So the thing about it is to be as visually appealing as possible. So to take care of yourself, to make sure you're well kept, to be and not to show too much, you know, keeping yourself, you know,
like a gift that is just
perfectly
wrapped.
When a guy has you, make him believe that, see, I have this now. Nobody else knows what I have. You know, but if a guy is thinking in his head, oh, I know who's been there before, he's not going to wife you. You know, he's not. And that's just a matter of fact. And a lot of the times guys seem to be scared of marriage because of the way the narrative is being pushed out in the world right now, that, you know, 50% of marriages end in divorce, A, B, C, and D. But it's like, listen, protect yourself in all those areas. And for women, I just really believe women are agreeable in all areas, right? It's good to be agreeable, but also it can be to your detriment. Don't be so easy because you don't want to lose something. Listen, if it's meant for you, it's not going to go anywhere. If you make a guy work for something, like if one thing I said to God, God, why would you give me a woman that says she's waiting until marriage? God, you know me, God. I can't. You know what I'm like. You know, I can't A, B, C, and D. And then I sat back and I just thought, I said, so am I really going to let this go for my own selfish desires? And that's when I realized, I said, like, for my own selfish desires, I'm willing to just throw this all away. For what? Then I realized, you know, I had to come to my senses and realize, like, I can't throw this all away. You know, so I have a good thing going on here. And, you know, how am I going to find something like this again? Yes, it's possible, but am I really willing to put to the test? And it just wasn't a worthwhile experience for me. And that's just what I seen. I seen the elements of what would make a great mother. What I liked what I saw. She was doing something for herself. You know, she was keeping herself busy in her own areas, right? You know, and
like, what more could you ask for, basically?
That's exactly it. Hasn't been traumatized by a bunch of guys.
That's what I sometimes I get really frustrated with guys of these days when they have like a good woman. They tick all the boxes, everything. They tick all the boxes. But because in the day that we live in, the Instagram, the TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, all that, whatever, and because obviously more people, you can see more people from different countries, or you can see someone that you never saw in your area, and blah, 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 blah. Like, everybody's more accessible nowadays. So it's like you have someone that treats you so well, you know, has everything, ticks all your boxes. Maybe there's 10, ticks 8, like all of that. But because that 2%, that person has that this new person has 2%. You rather leave that person that has the 8 boxes for the 2, and then you realize that, okay, you've obviously made a mistake, but now it's too late. Because I feel like what we have now, I always call it that people nowadays have the grass is greener syndrome, where you think that what you have, And it's a form of fear. It's a form of fear where you feel like, oh, I have this great person, but can I do better? Can I do better? Can I do better?
100%.
You will always, trust me, you will always do better. But for me, how I see it is that when will it end?
Yeah.
Because like, when will it end?
No, you're
like
right.
when will it end? When will you be satisfied? If you can't water the grass or where you're standing on, like, you would never develop as a person. Yes, there's more beautiful people, more handsome people than the person that you have. Yes, that's agreeable, that's understandable. But it's like, it shows a lack of self-discipline.
Yeah, 100%.
It shows a lack of self-discipline. You have something that is great, okay, stick with that person, grow with that person, like, learn to be friends with the person and all of this thing, and then it will grow into something that is so beautiful, where it's going to now be implemented into your kids. The kids will see the love that you have for your partner, your wife, your husband, all of that thing. But now, as I see it now, so many people leave relationships because they have that the grass is greener syndrome. I have this good person, but I feel like I'm missing something else. Like, fear. You have that fear, like, oh my gosh, I'm being caged in. But it's like, that's life.
Yeah.
Life is a roller coaster. Life is a fear of the unknown. Like, we're always going to have that regardless. Like, even when you're married, you married your perfect person. Yeah. But there's still that fear about, okay, what's going to happen in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Or we have kids. Having kids is a new fear on, like, there's just so many avenues we have to jump through as human beings until we meet Jesus. Amen.
Yeah.
But, like, that's how I see it. Like, the way in which dating, it just goes back to dating. Like, it's just so messed up because everybody thinks that they can always do better. And trust me, whoever is listening to this, it's not. It's not.
More times than not, what you have is the best.
Yeah.
But it's just because, like, just imagine, like, I sometimes say this to Tosin as well. I say, because I was your first ever man, you've gotten the cream of the crop, as I like to say, right? Yeah. You don't know what you have. Because you haven't experienced these guys out here. You don't know what they're nobody is taking you through the trenches. So, sometimes I just have to let her know, listen,
what you have is good.
but then all she needs to do is make one phone call to a friend to realize, okay, then she appreciates me.
Oh my gosh.
It just takes one phone call, because to see what somebody else is going through in order to appreciate what you actually have. Right? And I'm the same. It's not only her that's like that. I'm the exact same. I'd be like, man, A, B, C, and D. Then I realize, the streets are cold.
The streets
are cold.
People are really suffering out here.
The streets are cold. Really the streets are, like, honestly, dating in this, and this, what I've noticed, I didn't really notice it before, but now I know why. I see before, when I see women in their 30s, like, very beautiful women, and they're single, no child, and I'm like, what's wrong with this auntie? Like I always feel like something's wrong with her.
It doesn't make sense.
Me, I'm 24. I 1000% agree, because people are so selfish. Human beings are so selfish, and some people, to be honest, if you've come to that decision where you'd rather be single, then that's through your past experience and traumas. Me, I 100%, okay, I believe in marriage, and marriage is a beautiful thing, but if that's the decision you want to make, I'm so sorry, sis, bro, I don't, like, I wouldn't blame you, because the streets is absolutely, like, it's ghetto, it's cold,
I hear
everybody's just moving mad.
I hear
like, people are not healing from past traumas, you're not adding it to somebody else, and
ball of trauma.
People are going in between, and because Ireland is so small, like, so many people are dating, like, it's crazy. It's mad, like, it's absolutely crazy, like, like, it's only God that can help us.
Honestly, and to be honest with you, like, I just think it's going to be an interesting next decade. I wonder what the next 10 years is going to bring. I'm really interested to see what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Especially, like, what is the next 10 years going to look like for a lot of people?
I'm scared. Yeah. It's going to be,
like, and I just want to see, because even in the next 10 years, to be honest with you, in the next 10 years, there'll be men that are finally getting in a position. The men that never got any attention are finally in the position to where they can flourish, or they are flourishing, right? And one of the things that about men is, they, like, just imagine nobody is giving him attention when he has nothing, but a woman's loyalty is tested when a man has nothing. A man's loyalty is tested when he has everything.
Yeah.
And if there's a woman that helps you when you have nothing, now you have everything, you know, that's a scary period, because for you, you're wondering, why is she still with me? And then when you have everything, she's going to be wondering, why is he still with me?
Yeah.
You know, even though she kind of helped you build, like, that's the,
Smart.
oh gosh, the polarities is just, it's crazy.
Smart.
And just to really think about it, it's, yeah, I'm glad where I am right now.
Oh, you're blessed.
Yeah, honestly, we
Highly
thank
blessed,
God.
highly blessed.
We thank
And
God,
if
man.
anybody's out there that's been, you know, poisoned or being told that marriage is bad, marriage is such a beautiful thing. Like, it's the most powerful agreements, covenants with God. Like, it's so beautiful. And the way the world is trying to, or even the devil is trying to instill in people's mind that don't get married, be single, have multiple. Like, I was watching one TikTok, and one guy was like, one relationship coach was saying to women, you should have 5 boyfriends because the way men are moving, like just stuff like that. And obviously, as a woman, you think that, oh yeah, this is true. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I must.
And
It's
before you know,
actually
you have
not.
5 boyfriends and you're sleeping with 3 of them.
Sleeping. Like, it's absolutely, that's what causes confusion.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, don't do it. Marriage is a beautiful thing. Do not let somebody else tell you otherwise. It's a beautiful thing. It can still be done correctly and beautiful in God's eyes. Like, do not be deceived. Honestly, don't be deceived.
Fact.
If you still believe in marriage, hold on strong. It will happen in Jesus' name.
Amen. And I think we'll wrap it up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was actually a very interesting conversation. I actually love to
Very
do this again, because we
interesting.
touched
Very
on a
interesting.
lot of things. So I hope everyone that's listening got a lot of value from this episode.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you thought that you were the only one that went through some stuff when you were a child growing up, you weren't. And you
We're
definitely
all in
heard
this
it on this
together.
episode. We are all in this together. We're all trying to beat our trauma, trying to beat the devil within us, you know, and to ultimately come out as
Yeah.
better people.
Be
as
the
we
change
started.
be the change that you want to be. Or you want to
Exactly.
see.
Be the change that we want to
Yeah.
see. So have a great week. Thank you for listening.
Bye, guys.
Peace.